Hey, it's the Night of Awesome here. So this marks my first review, and I bet you're probably wondering why it's called First Impressions. Well, the reason is for this particular review, I'm going to be taking my first impression of TWEWY for the iPhone. Um, I know some of you might say, how's that fair to give it a fair shot if you haven't played the entire thing yet? You're only giving your first impression. Well, the reason is, I am such a big fan of The World Ends With You. I played it on the DS, and the reason I got it for the iPhone was I wanted to see how it held up. So, for this review, I'm judging it on what I've played up to Shiki Day 3, which has given me enough time to look at some of the basic mechanics of gameplay. When I finish the game, I will probably do my final impressions review. But, for now, this is just what I've played through. I've only played through Shiki Day 3. So, I guess the first thing I want to talk about is what carried over. And, to start off, there's, the inner workings of the basic gameplay. So, I guess the first thing I'll talk about is movement, which hasn't changed too much. The only difference is the lack of a D-pad. When moving throughout the world, you just press it, and Neku will move to wherever you've, pressed, or you can also drag him from area to area. And it's kind of the same thing as what they did in the DS. You could either choose to use the D-pad, or you could use the stylus to move him around in the world. So that hasn't really changed. I preferred to use the D-pad, so it took a second to really kind of get used to maneuvering, but not all that long considering that it's what I've done before. Combat is the same too, in the sense that you still use touch commands to fight. The difference is, and I kind of like this difference, is that without the two screens, you and your partner fight on the same screen, and you use touch commands to control your partner as well. Sometimes it can get a little confusing depending on the psychs that you have for Neku, and sometimes they can even work to your advantage. Like, one of my psychs is that I have the bullets, and to use Shiki, you press an enemy. So if I use the bullets, and then use Shiki, I can, I'm going to kind of go on a tangent here and say I want to replace the light puck. They have what's called a cross slash, where if you attack and then your partner attacks and then you attack, that boosts your sync rate, which will increase. And once you got 100% sync rate, you'll get the team attack. So, going back to what I was saying before, using the bullets and then pressing with Shiki, it's just a quick way to rack up sync rate. The team attack is the same and different in the sense that in the DS version you would get fusion stars. For example, for Shiki, you would collect cards and then kind of like a memory game, like you would follow a key of directional buttons that would eventually lead to a card, and that card would go in one of three places, and you had to go from right to left. And it would show you where, like if I had the circle card and the circle card went in the middle, it would show me that, and then I would have to find a new card to show which card went on the right before I could get that circle card again, kind of like a memory game. It's kind of similar now in the iPhone version, except it shows when you initiate the attack, it shows you a card, and then there are 4 cards that flip over and then flip back, and you have to find the 2 circle cards, or whatever card is shown at the beginning. And it works, but at the same time it kind of doesn't, because it's really fast, so you have to be really attentive. And for me, I'm still looking at the first card before I even have time to look at all the other cards surrounding that card to find out where the matches are. So, I mean, I understand it and I get it. I guess I'm just not fast enough. It happens, I guess. I'm looking forward to seeing how Joshua's and even Beat's psychs are going to work when that time comes, which I'll talk about in my final impressions review if I do that. Okay. So yeah, battling is pretty much the same except for the changes that they made to the partner. And again, I really like that. I think it's kind of interesting to fight on the same battlefield, considering all the different references in and out of TWEWY suggest that they never fought in two zones, but rather fought side by side, despite what they said in game. For instance, you can look at the latest Kingdom Hearts game on the 3DS, where they fight side by side and the light puck goes in between them. It just, I don't know, it felt interesting, and I kind of liked it. Okay, so I guess the next thing I'll talk about is story, and really it hasn't changed at all, even down to the dialogue, it is exactly the same. The only thing that has changed is a few lines regarding the two zones, which were a reference to the two screens in the DS version. They changed it to accommodate the fact that there were no longer two screens, so they couldn't reference two zones. So that worked out too. I have no problem with the story. I was in love with the story the first time, so seeing it again now, it just feels, awesome. It's really good to know that the core game hasn't been touched at all, and only a little bit of the gameplay itself was touched, and even then, not that much. The entire purpose of this entire app was just to widen the horizons for people to play TWEWY. So that's really all there is to say about it, is just that it was a good carryover. It works. It feels organic. Nothing has been so crucially changed that for someone who's played the DS version, it's like, whoa, what's going on? And really, that's what you're looking forward in a game like this, where it carries over to a different platform. Veterans of the game are going to want that familiarity, and the new people are going to want to be able to get into this. So, it widened the fan base in a way. I'm really looking forward to see what else they'll do with it. For instance, the secret reports, and yeah, I've seen the secret ending already. So I mean, I kind of already know what it is, and people are saying it's supposed to be a reference to the next TWEWY game, but I suppose it could be, but I don't think it'll be a character, because I've also heard the theory that people are calling the secret ending hybrid, because it's a character that is a mixture of every character. If you look close enough, like Neku's headphones, Joshua's hair, Mr. Mew, Rhyme's stance, and Beat's color scheme, I think, are what all came together into this single character. And it looked really cool, but at the same time, I'm not sure if it's a new character or not. So, I guess I'll see for myself when I finish the game and unlock the secret ending. Maybe that's when I'll do my final impressions reviews, when I've unlocked the secret ending, but that would take a while, so in the meantime, I'll make some more reviews. That's all really I can say about this game so far in my first impressions. I really liked it. That's how I'm starting this off with, and it's really good to go into a game liking it. I've had games before where, they kind of started out slow, but they had such a reputation that I stuck through them, and at the end I did like them, but my first impression was kind of weak. So I'm really glad to go into this game loving it. So yes, I recommend it. Check it out if you have an iPhone. If you don't, if you have a DS, I would try it out on there too. It is an excellent game, great story, great gameplay, and the soundtrack is to die for. That's another thing I didn't talk about, is the soundtrack. In the DS version, the soundtrack is really catchy, and in a way, it was sort of used to set the tone of the game. In the first week, the music is kind of lighthearted and really, I guess, cutesy, for lack of a better word, which really set the standard for what the tone of the week was. It wasn't dark. It was just kind of there. It was really lighthearted. And then as the weeks went on, and the music got darker, so did the tone of the game. And it just got more grungy and just more hardcore, I guess, story wise, more emotional. Um, in this game for the iPhone, I guess the soundtrack is really it doesn't really set the tone. It's more just to kind of get the player into the game to enjoy the music, which is still good because I'm playing through Shiki and I've heard songs, just in the first 3 days that I'd never heard at all while playing the DS version. I mean, I'd heard them, but never in game. I would have to buy the soundtrack and then listen to it by myself. So I kind of like that, the integrating new music into the gameplay that I hadn't heard in the DS version, at least in game. It was really nice. Certain cutscenes have different songs, I guess, equipped to them. Like when Hanakoma shows up, they play what song? I think they play "Game Over" is the soundtrack in the iPhone version, and I think in the DS version it was just whatever song happened to be playing during Shiki. Or no, that's not true. But I can't remember the name of the track that they used. It's been a while since I've played through the DS version. So, if you have that answer and you feel like commenting it, go right ahead. I honestly can't remember. So, I guess it's not something really to complain about. I mean, I really like the DS version in the sense that, or at least soundtrack-wise, in the sense that it set the tone. It really said a lot to me about how they decided to tell the story through actions, dialogue, and also through music. They were using all kinds of things to tell this story to set you in the mood. And this one, they were just kind of giving you more of the soundtrack. So it's good and bad in its own sense. I'm choosing not to hate it simply because the music is so good. I just felt that storytelling wise, it gave them a lot of credit in the DS version to have the music set the tone the way that it did for me. So yeah, again, recommend this game. Get it either DS or iPhone, whatever you want. Game is still technically the same. I guess in the end, I kind of prefer the DS version, simply because I'm used to it, and I'm not necessarily used to the iPhone version yet. But honestly, it doesn't matter considering it's still the same game. Gameplay is untouched, story is untouched thus far. Still, I gotta hand it to the DS version because it's what got me into the series. It just worked for what it was. So, yeah, try the game out. That's all I have to say for this review, so until next time, I will see you then.